Hello, we are Exutoire. My name is Bukwison.
And my name is Paul-Antoine.
Together we founded Exutoire as a queer critical spatial practice in Oslo in 2019 in the hope of shaping our own path in the architecture field, one that is more representative of who we are and of what we enjoy doing as architects. We are at this moment based in Hanoi, Vietnam.
So today we thought of taking you on a little walk around Hanoi and discuss how we see queerness manifesting in our practice as designers. We'll introduce you to places of the city that relate to our perception of place, our philosophy of practice, and what inspires us. So the outline of the talk today is as follows. We'll talk about what led us to call ourselves a queer practice of architecture, how we define such a practice. We'll introduce you to some of the projects that we do. We'll discuss our methods and how we work, and we'll talk about queerness in public space. We'll also discuss the importance for us of context for criticality, and finally, what we see for the future of Exutoire. So we really hope that those discussions will inspire you as much as it motivates us. So let's get started. Like many queer initiatives, our project was instigated by frustrations against the normativity of our discipline, architecture. We found architecture, urban planning, and construction extractive, ignorant, and discriminatory. The whole imaginary around this profession is exclusive and not welcoming to us, and we want to change that in whatever scale our actions can take. But this story is also a love story between the two of us, one that started when we met in architecture school, a life partnership as well as a work partnership.
In 2020, together with our dear friend Armelle Breuil, we founded Safe Space Collective, whose mission was to gather and debate around issues of diversity and representation in architecture in Norway. This project led us to be immersed in queer theory as a way to emancipate ourselves from the unfairness of the profession. There we found the inspiration to challenge established systems and envision a more fair, kind, and caring practice of architecture. So Exutoire simply began as a necessary outlet for self-expression, but gradually evolved to become a means to investigate and design for social, spatial, and material justice.
Our queer discourse borrows from the work of pioneers before us like Sarah Ahmed, Judith Butler, Jack Arbestam, Paul Preciado, Naomi Stead, and many others. Today we see a queer practice as a kinder, slower, more open-minded, optimistic, community and future-oriented alternative to the current dominant ways of doing architecture. Our queer practice seeks to transgress social, spatial norms and their reproductive character, to acknowledge and challenge how spaces produce social behavior and vice versa, to create more liberatory spaces for distant bodies and behaviors. For us, a queer practice is collective and collaborative. We do our best to open up to others, learn from others, be fair, kind, and respectful to others. To borrow the words of José Esteban Muñoz, queerness searches for an ideality. We use this as a reminder to always aim to contribute to the common good. For this reason, a queer practice is inherently intersectional for us, taking into consideration the privilege and power hierarchy that shape our world. In that sense, queerness will evolve with time while being resilient to social transformations.
Right now we're at our neighborhood cafe located in the northern part of Hai Ba Trung district in Hanoi. Behind us is khu tập thể Nguyễn Công Trứ, a post-war subsidy period collective housing area. It was the first of its kind dating back from around 1958 to 1960. We want to show you a space that is dear to our daily life because we believe the spaces we inhabit have a lot of influence on who we are and on our practice. We come here almost every day because it's so close to our home and because the coffee is good. But we also appreciate the unpretentious atmosphere of the place and the kindness of the shop owners. We can also see how their livelihood depends on this storefront, how they make their loyal local customers come back time and time again, and how together they cultivate a beautiful communal life that takes place right here on their modest 15 square meters of footprint.
In some ways, queerness for us stemmed from the simplicity, humility, and genuinity of places like this. Concretely, we elaborate the concept of queerness in design in different formats. For instance, in 2020-2021, we created together with Armelle Breuil a podcast series, a 6-issue fanzine, and an exhibition called Safe Space, in collaboration with Room for Kunst og Arkitektur in Oslo. There, discussions and contributions from more than 50 people materialized these freeing and open conversations about social, spatial, and material justice. The method here was to listen, debate, and call for action. In a similar way, between 2022 and 2023, the Dissident Public's Future Artifacts of Queer Methodologies co-curation and co-creation project gathered a collective of 9 artists and designers with an interest in feminism, queerness, and architecture. It was composed of Maike Statz, Dania Burchard, Lea Brami, Maiko Djejuan, Yan Chin, Lexi Owen, Jene Pavlovska, and the 2 of us. Together, we attempted to formulate an alternative imaginary of public space as an infrastructure of support for queer and other communities. We sought to transgress the appearance, materiality, and programming of public space within Room in Oslo. We looked to reuse, patchworking, and furniture hacking as methods to design artifacts of assembly for workshops and discussions, such as a fountain, library lampposts, a gathering tent, etc. In parallel, through teaching, writing, and speaking, we try to develop new narratives and opportunities for a queer discourse in architecture. For instance, in summer 2023, with a group of students at TU Darmstadt in Germany, we searched for alternative forms of assembly within the architecture school. We looked at references from student movements from 1968 and contemporary discourses around liberatory pedagogies to formulate new demands for new spaces in educational institutions, such as spaces for rest, spaces for prayer, spaces for mass, and for appropriation. Our projects do not attempt to create queer spaces or specifically cater for the queer community. We see our practice as one that adopts a queer approach to architecture. That is to say that we use what we call queer methods or consider issues from a queer perspective. We believe that they can be summarized in a few key points.
We try to listen before we speak, exert curiosity with humility, hold accountability, and acknowledge shortcomings and biases.
We learn from meaningful encounters, friendships, and collaborators. None of what we do exclusively comes from us. We build on knowledge we receive from discussions and collaborations, from other people's experiences and work.
We believe in co-creation as a genuine act of collaboration. It is a non-prescriptive tool that comes from a true understanding of each other's philosophy and skills instead of exploiting, extracting, or tokenizing one another.
We like to rethink operational systems, including financial models, collaboration frameworks, hierarchy of roles, etc. We believe in fair pay, adequate working conditions, and shared authorship.
We embrace failure, uncertainty, and uncomfortable situations.
We always try to practice care, generosity, kindness, friendship, and community.
We advocate for intersectionality. We know that our queer experience is not representative of that of the community at large, so we stay aware of our limitations, acknowledge the privilege of our education, of our economic situation, and social-cultural capital.
Overall, we believe that queer visibility and discourse is important in today's society. But we are humble about our contribution and just so grateful to get platforms like this one to discuss our thoughts. There's one question, though, that always remains with us. What queer discourses actually get to be heard?
So we're in another one of the oldest collective housing areas of Hanoi, Khu Tập Thể, Kim Liên, in Dong Da district, built in the early 1960s. Over time, the ex-Soviet modernist structure of the long repetitive building blocks became overgrown by individual reappropriations. As the need for space grew with the population after the war, people started building their own extensions, taking over parts of the shared space as their own. It's so easy to romanticize such a special place, but we're not here for that. We recognize the difficulties of an environment like this, like the lack of housing surface or efficient road infrastructure. At the same time, it boils with energy, with resistance, transgression, but also adaptability and resilience. We can see how conflicts and negotiations take place right here in perpetual cycles on the surface of the city. For example, a space doesn't necessarily have the same function all day long, 7 days a week. A courtyard at times turn into a playground, and then a laundry and drying area, then a street restaurant.
For us, that's part of queerness. On one hand, you're operating from the margin, bypassing imposed rules, and being resourceful, carving out your own path, creating a place of your own. On the other hand, it's also about dialoguing with others and co-regulating space and social behaviors. It also illustrates the innate need for a diversity of spaces and a certain fluidity to adapt to individual as well as community needs. Here, dissident behaviors are omnipresent and negotiated. They are part of the community's day-to-day interactions. In a sense, this pluralistic negotiation reflects an intersectional understanding of space. Different needs are supported by one space depending on the time of the day and the immediate individual demands.
So finally, we're taking you to the Zirnholm Garden in the heart of Hoan Kiem district. We have the central Hoan Kiem Lake just 300 meters to the west. This place is colloquially known as Vườn Hoa Con Cóc, or the Frog Garden, because of the frog sculptures in the stone fountain right here. Originally named Place Chavessieu after a former resident superior of Tonkin, inaugurated in 1901 across from the Hôtel Grand Métropole. This stone fountain occupies the center of the garden's triangular shape, and at the very top of it is the above ground tomb and memorial of Chavessieu. So it's a bit weird when you think about it. In 1945, after the Japanese coup d'etat in French Indochina, the place was renamed Zirnholm Garden with nationalist connotations. In recent years, the structure of the tomb and central fountain was altered because of a bodhi or sacred fig tree growing out of the cracks in the stone. Between 2021 and 2022, a full renovation project was conducted as a collaboration between the district of Hoan Kiem and the region of Ile-de-France or Paris. And the garden reopened to the public in January 2023. Today it is one of the most well-known public spaces of Hanoi, frequented by the large public. There's a strong complexity to this place. It was first built as both a tomb, so showing personal power and an intimate connection to an individual, and a space of gathering and leisure, so of public endeavors. Then we have the parasitic Bodhi tree that destroyed the established architecture and signaled transgression and evolution over time. Today, the garden's revered cultural status, adored by people, shows an ad hoc, do with what you have attitude, but also a nuanced, transformative understanding of history. If a similar space exists in a different context, maybe the way people view it and deal with it would have been completely different. This is where we think that our ability and willingness to adapt to context and people around us, while being critical of it and staying true to ourselves, is an important part of being queer.
In our current practice, we see a queer approach as one of decentering, to step away from normative Western notions of placemaking that we were taught. For instance, in a new context for us like Vietnam, we're delving into questions such as, what does a public space look like here? How is it used? What are queer spaces like here? What should they cater for? Beyond decentering, a logic of recentering is also important for us to consider. We see recentering as a process where we attempt not to confront otherness to establish dominant Western heteronormative concepts, but to understand a local situation based on local concepts, culture, and political realities.
On a personal level, we believe that the future of our practice should continue nurturing joy and happiness as motivations for creativity. On the other hand, we strongly believe in the importance of architecture as a catalyst for the development of social infrastructure within communities. We hope that those dispersed thoughts of ours somehow make sense together and to you. Thanks for bearing with us. From Hanoi with lots of love.